Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Yabashim Al Shai, Baruch Kodash Barakadam, Lord Yabashim Al Shai, the honest apostles, our elders from above, blessed ITC, brothers out there teaching and doing truth and sincerity. I describe a mob for the Nebraska camp, the GMS press in the heart. I brought this, I put it in post production. But me and the brothers, me and the Hakim were doing a class on the Maccabees, the first chapter, going into the kings that ascended the throne after King Alexander, and doing some digging and found some in Wikipedia. Now, before we get into that, I'm gonna read a precept, okay, and then we're gonna give a foundational statement, and just read the excerpt, okay. So when we go to Daniel's 12:4, it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, and seal the book, even to the time of the end." Okay, so it says, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Okay, and the reason why I wanted to bring this out is because within that excerpt, it mentions that we are Israelites, black Israelites to be particular, and whether someone put that in there, because we could, it's all it's speculated that Wikipedia can be modified. So I'm not intricate to be able to go into the particulars of some people know how to read it and say, okay, you see this, they got quotation mark means it's been in, this is an edit or something like that. Edit or no edit, that's in there, and that's all spiritual, and that's all for a reason, and that has to be acknowledged, and that's through the spirit that it's up there and it's been left up there. All right. So within that, we was reading about Alexander. So I'm gonna read this excerpt, and again, I'll have it in post production also. And again, this paragraph is from the Wikipedia. I forget which exactly because we was doing a lot of digging, um, when we was writing it, going, getting it up. But if we got the time frames and everything, the details, so it won't be a hard cross lookup type of deal. So I'll read the excerpt and then leave it to you, Akim, to eat off of it. Apparat is edifying. It says 324 BC, after the death of Alexander, which was 323 BC actually. It says 324 BC, after the death of Alexander, the Macedonian Empire was divided among four of his generals. Okay, I believe it was Lysimachus, Sander, Seleucid, and Ptolemaic Empire. Along with Antigonus, and they had a bunch of partisans or satraps. I think that's what you call it, satraps or something like that. But long story short, it was going down, and a lot of them were fighting in Macedon and Eastern Asia, the Babylonian area, attempting to assert their dominance, during this time. Okay, so you go to the book of Maccabees, they tell you that they set crown upon themselves, and wickedness was spread. Okay, as this was the Alexander was the rise of Edomites per se, because they even say that Greece is the cradle of civilization, and really they're saying that it's the cradle of the golden beacon or the pride of Edomite civilization. You know, um, but that's neither here nor there. Just a little sidebar. It says Macedonian Empire was divided among four of his generals, and Judea, being situated between Egypt and Syria, became subject to all the revolutions and wars in which his successors were engaged against each other because I believe Eulemus, the secretary, and Antigonus. I believe Antigonus were there was going to war, and Seleucus got involved a little bit, but not too much, you know. But he got involved. Long story short, and a lot of that war happened over there in from it stretched from Turkey to east, or in Babylon, you can say, okay. And that stretch of area from west to east, Israel is right underneath, because they even went down to Carthage, um, and had an area down there. So that geographic area is an area where Israel had to be involved. They had, because it ain't like they just sweeping back and forth and going to war and didn't have Israel involved. Because when you're reading the Maccabees, you hear how they were, being used as mercenaries and choosing sides. Same as, in certain cases, they had the silver shields, which were employed by Alexander. That was his private army. But then you have, the Asian and Eastern, you know, Asian elephants and Asian cavalry. You had the Elamite. I believe. Oh, I don't want to get it wrong, but it's the Persian cavalry also. So they were like mercenaries, and these mercenaries were hired on both sides. The Eulemeus had one, and Antigonus had some. And by them linking up with like Seleucus and things like that, that gave them access to more of the Asian area. And then even Antigonus, I mean, Eulemus had the same thing. And it was just a whole. It was Edomites going to war with Edomites. And then especially during that time, they was going to war with each other in their own kingdom. So a lot of their resources came from the same stock. It's just who was able to make league with the ones who had the best access to what, okay, or the better access to what. Okay, so getting back to where we at here, it says going back, it says Macedonian Empire was divided among four of his generals, and Judea, being situated between Egypt and Syria, became subject to all the revolutions and wars in which his successors were engaged against each other. It was at first governed by Laomedon, the Mytilenean, one of Alexander's captains, and after, because Laomedian was really the ruler over that area of Syria, you can say, before Seleucus was, or the Seleucid Empire, because you have the Ptolemaic and Seleucid Empire, which goes into the Syrian wars. But this is a little bit before that, okay? And Laomedon was the person that ruled, and eventually he got knocked out the deal. I believe Antigonus got him out the way, and then Seleucus ended up getting into the role. Okay, but let's continue on. It says, and after he was defeated by Ptolemy Soter, so it wasn't Antigonus, it was Ptolemy Soter, king of Egypt, right? So now listen closely. The black Jews refused to violate their engagement to him. The history of the Jews, you hear that? The black Jews, there is no black Jews, it's Israelites. They try to say Hellenistic Jews, but the Jews, the Israelites, refused to violate their engagement to him. The history of the Jews from the destruction of Jerusalem to present time by Hannah Adams. This he was still allowed to retain on the second partition of Triparadisus in 321 BC, but in but it was not long before the provinces of Phoenicia and Cilicia attracted the interest of his powerful neighbor Ptolemy the Egyptian. Because at the end of the day, we were making league to even go with Jonathan. I forget which league he was making when they gave him the role, and it was So back in that time, you know, um, we know that Alexander, when he conquered places, he didn't just wipe them out, plunder them like the Huns or other ancient civilizations. He made them tributaries, because once you go into Maccabees, the first chapter, and go into Maccabees, the first chapter, it tells you how they were getting down. And it says Maccabees 1 and 1. It's first Maccabees 1 and 1. It says, and it happened that after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedon, who came out of the land of Kittim, right? They were both from the land of Macedon, Pella, to be exact, which is, today's Greece. They changed, Macedon, like Sudan, North Sudan, South Sudan, so they split it up. But Pella is the city where Alexander was born. And they said he came out of the land of Kittim because they were, they had some wars going on in Kittim, because this is the time where Philip was attempting to unite Greece in order to go to war with the Persians, i.e. Darius. Okay, and it says Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes, Salakia, who came out of Kittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes, right? That he reigned in his stead first over Greece. And the reason why Alexander reigned first over Greece is because King Philip was assassinated, okay? Because that you hear in the beginning, I read it again, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip. Okay, Philip was the one that was actually getting busy at first, and then when he got to getting to the throne to put the crown on his head, you could watch it in the movies. Right before he get the crown on his head, Alexander gets uh, extended to the throne. Okay, which caused them to lose one of the battles in Cyprus, which is Kittim. Okay, Kittim is modern day Cyprus. Okay, and they actually lost that battle low key, but it was always a battle for them to get Cyprus. Cyprus went back and forth to everybody because it was a really key land port for naval access. Okay, but let me continue on to get to the point. It says has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. And I wanted to put a side note that with the going back to Daniel's with the statue, with the head of gold, the arms or the chest of iron, and then you go into the brass, okay, and then the legs of iron. So like it's the chest is silver, and then the belly and the thighs are bronze, and then the legs of iron, okay, and then the feet of iron and clay, okay. So because the head is gold, and Apostle Hart is beautiful breakdown at our elders, from as the gold as it goes down, the value of the metal diminishes, but the strength of it increases. So the value shows how rich the kingdoms are. And then as it goes down in value, the iron gets stronger, which does what? It represents the military might. Okay. So as you goes down, the iron gets stronger. Okay. But the value of it lowers, which means the kingdom wasn't as rich. Because it goes the head of gold, that's the kingdom of Babylon, and then you have the arms of iron, which is the Persians and the Medes. Remember, Alexander took down who? Darius, okay, king of who? The Persians and the Medes, okay, and then who ruled after that? The Greece, and it's not Japhet, even though Greece was ruled by Japhet, and Kittim was by Japhet. They were islander people, which is why the Samoans or in Hawaii, in those island areas, the way they are now. Okay, but again, so that the legs of iron would be ancient Rome. That's who was to rule afterwards. And when you go into the Syrian wars, it'll show you when that line was drawn in the sand and they wrote a circle around him saying, "Don't step out the circle." That showed you the power that Rome had at that time. Okay, which is a little bit down there. Apparatus out through the spirit, it'll lead to, lessons that can be pulled out from this. But it's a lot of history that's relevant to this time, and show you that our involvement in history. Okay, because Esau liked to portray that anybody of color was just dormant, especially Israelites. Okay, because they don't want to admit that the Israelites were of color. But I found it interesting that we found that on the site, notating that. That was Yapa through the spirit of the Heavenly Father. As you said, the earth shall consume the water, the flood that the dragon tried to spit out, which is the lies. Okay, and one of the lies is that they are the true children of Israel, which is a lie. Of course, we are the true children of Israel, and the earth absorbing the water is the lies to spew out archaeology, and the truth of the world shall come forth. Okay, but getting back to it, it says, all right, so pretty much this is this is 321, where Israelites were involved, and they were choosing leagues with different satraps, and really in the beginning they went with Egypt, which is, it wasn't like it was always a spiritual move. A lot of them went with Egypt, just like Rome went to protect Egypt because of the grains that they had, because that's how, that's your resource to live. Okay. But just to put it out there, because when you watch these like videos and read these books, they'll just say mercenaries, they'll say barbarians or this and that, but sometimes those are Israelites, and you kind of got to go with time BC, this time BC, that time BC in the region of the land, and then you got to go and sift through the scriptures and line things up around that time, because even though the scriptures are jump ahead, because the scriptures jump ahead by like 100 years within the book of Maccabees, on to Demetrius Soter, in that situation. But at the end of the day, we were involved, because we weren't just sitting there while Ptolemy and Antigonus and Lysimachus and Seleucid were all banging, and they're just walking by us, and we just whistling and walking with sheep while they marching by in armies. No, they were sacking temples and all kind of things, man. They was losing and coming back and sacking our temple and gathering our people to get suit up and go to war with this or that person. And this is a proof in time, which I thought was Yapa, that that shows that how we were in league and being used to fight in wars and win other wars for these other countries, just the same as Israelites, being the Tuskegee Airmen, the Red Wings, and all that, being the first on the line. They they'll brag about the war and say our country did this, but they won't put out there that who they used and who really won battles. You know what I'm saying? Because even when you talk about the Silver Shield, whether they were Edomites or whether they were Jake, they were some bad dudes, man. Talking about, and these dudes were in their 60s, getting busy, right? Now, the brother brought out a valuable point. 60s back then is different from 60s now, but they still are in their 60s. Now, a person could say, oh, well, they're warriors or this. Just think about a UFC fighter in his 60s fighting somebody in their 20s and just dog walking them. That's not something that's normal, okay? And it showed you the skill level of combat, because it ain't like you can go home, you get knocked out, and then you can go and train and do it. No, you lost. When you lost, you lost. You lost life. You lost your life, or you was, probably chained up, but the result of losing was very, very crucial. So to win in them battles, you pretty much erasing competition. So of course, that's a little bit of leverage. But long story short, it's very interesting on how they use certain warriors, how they use the elephants from Eastern Asia, how they use the horses of the Persians and the Asians. You know what I'm saying? And different war tactics of different areas. Even in Egypt, using the war tactics and the bronze and the Iron Age, because again, they was using these ages don't only just match the metals, but they were actually using these metals in war too. Because Rome came in with the iron, and Egypt and Greece was known for the bronze, an actual metal that they used to fight with also. Okay, but we all know iron's a very powerful metal, but is it's not as rich in quality as bronze, silver to gold. Okay, but I just wanted to share that, man. I thought it was yappa to see, a a time in history as to where Israelites were getting involved, and then on top of that, in Wikipedia in itself, again it says, um, you know, um, it says Macedonian Empire was divided among four of his generals. Again, that's there. I believe that's Lysimachus, Cassander, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. Okay, and Judea being situated between Egypt and Syria, so that's between the Seleucid at the time, Laomedian, um, but it later turned into Ptolemy. I mean, Seleucus. Okay, because Ptolemy is Egypt, Seleucus is Babylon, the area of Babylon. Because they try to do they try to do Seleucus dirty with the tripartition and leave him out, and they pretty much put him way far where he was comfortable, but yet far away. You move just far enough to away from your relatives to where you can visit them, but they ain't too close to be a problem. All they did is Seleucus, uh, in that situation. But just don't want to get off track too much. But it says they became subject to all the revolutions and wars in which his successors were engaged against each other. It was at first governed by Laomedon the Mytilene, one of Alexander's captains, after he was defeated by Ptolemy Soter, king of Egypt. The Black Jews refused to violate their engagement to him. The history of the Jews from the destruction of Jerusalem to present time by Hannah Adams, page 10 through 11. And then it says he's still allowed to retain on this. He was still allowed to retain on the second partition at Tripartisis in 321. And when you look that up, it's pretty much that they when they split it up the first time, they did it a certain way, and then Cassander killed, Cassander was doing things, Antigonus was doing things, Antipater was doing things, and they were just moving around and forming alliances, just going back on their word as usual, on their own self, man. But it's a very interesting read, and this is another infallible proof that we are the true children of Israel, man. The Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. It proves that Israelites are men of color. Okay, regardless if you feel somebody put it in there or this is the original writing of the person that made it. Regardless of the point, is here. Okay, and this is proof because guess what? This is true that the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the Israelites, are of dark skin color. Okay, I mean the Israelites, which are Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, are the true Israelites, and we are the people, and Israelites are the people of color. Slack is 6:40. I've been working overnight, so I'm you're dealing with half a man right now. uh, But yeah. So I just wanted to share that, man. I thought it was beautiful information to share. Again, this is on Wikipedia. Um, I forget what I looked up exactly, but you could look up the Israel and the Triparadises, where they made the contract to, after King Alexander was fell sick and died, and you'll find that, and I'm gonna leave the picture of that section in post production. Abarataza. Yahweh Bashimi Al Shai, Bahar Kakadash, call law Yahweh Bashimi Al Shai, Laban Sa Pasua elders who rule well. Shalom.